Serpent, Scion by Orphan Account. Read by Kaiinbed. Chapter 10. Prophecy, Lily, and Secret Weapon. There you are. Harry, where on earth have you been? Oh, Severus. Good to see you. Do you know where I can get raw meat, but in a large quantity? Raw meat? Harry, you have no idea how worried I've been. You disappeared for the whole night. Now what do you need raw meat for? For Cerberus. He probably hasn't had a proper meal in weeks, Harry explains. Why as a she would be a good term to describe Severus's face after the boy's words. In a panic-stricken movement, he grabs Harry's wrist and drags him into an empty classroom, slamming the door behind. Harry, what have you done? He whispers, looking at the boy with wide eyes. You have been on the third-floor corridor, haven't you? Yes, I have, Harry hisses impatiently. So what? Is it forbidden or whatnot? Actually, yes, it is, Severus hisses. Harry raises his eyebrows. Oh, because of this? Reaching to his hip pocket, he pulls the scarlet stone out. Snape gasps loudly and takes a step back. Harry, how? Why? He whispers. There's no need to keep this ridiculous obstacle course up there, so I'm taking the dog away from this castle, Harry says firmly. I'm thinking upon a best way to sneak him outside, and I want to feed him beforehand because... Harry! Snape places his hands on the boy's shoulders and shakes some sense into him. Not violently, but hard enough for Harry to hiss in confusion and irritation. Are you even aware of the kind of danger you exposed yourself to? Why on earth did you decide to go there? What kind of insane idea was that? How did you even... Wait. Snape stops mid-sentence, and his pupils widen suddenly. Harry, he says cautiously, how did you manage to solve the potions riddle? You're illiterate. Harry narrows his eyes. No, you wait. How do you know about the potions riddle? Have you been down there? Snape sighs. Harry, I have designed this riddle, he says slowly. Harry's eyes widen. You were the one to design this assault course? He asks in disbelief. No, not the entire thing. Only this particular chamber. A big part of Hogwarts faculty was involved in designing this assault course. Dumbledore had made us each come up with an obstacle. Then he put everything together himself. Oh, Harry mutters, not actually surprised. Tell me then, was it the old coot's idea to make this assault course so approachable? I mean, the toddler-level obstacle seems suspiciously to be designed specifically for my disabled cousin. That would make a lot of sense, judging by the fact that my cousin seems to be the only person that actually needs the stone. Harry lifts his eyes at Severus and flinches, seeing countless drops of sweat on the young man's pale forehead. Your cousin, Harry. Severus, you're really freaking me out today. What are you so paranoid about? Yes, it turns out that I have a close relative here at Hogwarts. Is that really so shocking? Why are you behaving so oddly? Severus stares at the boy, clearly unsure what to say. Harry puts the stone back into his inner pocket and extends his hand towards Snape. Would you like to meet my cousin? I have to deliver the stone to him anyway, and the sooner I do it, the better. Please, Severus, come with me. There is nothing to be scared of. Harry watches Severus fall down to his knees in front of the scarlet-eyed. My lord, Snape whispers in disbelief. Scarlet-eyed's thin lips curl into a smile. Severus, my friend, he says quietly. Harry raises his eyebrows. You two know each other? He asks in confusion. Snape turns his head towards Harry and meets his eyes. For a good while, he seems to be searching for adequate words. Harry, he says finally, there is a lot of things out there that you don't know about yet. Harry snorts. Enlighten me, he says dryly, crossing his arms on his chest. Severus picks himself up from his knees and sits on one of the armchairs. Harry, most importantly, you need to know that the wizard in Britain has not always looked the way it looks now. It hasn't always been ruled by Albus Dumbledore. Snape starts apprehensively, his eyes clearly saying, I'm not supposed to tell you that. Once upon a time, our headmaster was not as influential and popular as he is now. Severus continues. Actually, he used to have a large group of political and ideological opponents, wizards and witches of all ages, and this group used to be led by no other than your cousin here. Harry gasped, looking at Scarlet-Eyed. Scarlet-Eyed nods, confirming Severus's words. Our group has been getting larger and stronger throughout the years. More and more wizards and witches are willing to unite under our banner, he hisses. Eventually, we started a war for domination over the wizarding world. This was one of the biggest conflicts in our history, known as the Great Wizarding War. I'm sure you are familiar with that term. Well, I'm too young to remember the war, but yes, I have heard about it, Harry admits. I assume that you must have gotten severely injured during the war. That resulted in your current state. Am I right? Severus and Scarlet-Eyed exchange quick looks. Harry, Severus says cautiously, you were the one to reduce your cousin to such a state. Harry feels an ice-cold cramp in his stomach. No, that's not possible. What? He asks absently. Severus looks at him with genuine compassion in his dark eyes. Harry, please sit down. We are going to explain everything. For the next hour, Severus and Voldemort are sitting in front of the boy, telling him the long and complex story of the Wizarding War, the prophecy, and the disastrous Halloween night when the Dark Lord had fallen. The whole dreadful truth that has been concealed from Harry for years is now being revealed. Voldemort is telling the major part of the story, using Parseltongue and keeping his voice calm and soothing, trying to keep the boy's emotional shock to minimum. Snape supplements his lord's explanations, interjecting stories from his own experience. Harry doesn't interrupt. He is sitting with wide, round eyes. When the topic is finally exhausted, and neither Severus nor Voldemort have anything more to add, silence falls over the room. Dead silence. Harry, Severus asks apprehensively, after a while. Prophecy? Harry hisses absently. All of that was based upon a prophecy? Well, Snape mumbles. The Dark Lord nods silently. Severus, you said you had overheard contents of the prophecy yourself. Harry's voice is surprisingly cool and emotionless. Could you repeat the part you had managed to register? Snape leans forward. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches, born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the seventh month dies. He recites quietly. That's not the entirety. I had been thrown out of the pub before hearing the rest. Harry's eyes widen. From the pub? You didn't mention a pub, Severus. You were eavesdropping on the seer in a pub? The seer who had created the prophecy is currently one of Hogwarts' professors. She'd gotten the premonition during her job interview, in the Hog's Head. This pub belongs to the headmaster's brother, Aberforth Dumbledore. Harry exhales slowly. The headmaster was the one to hold the interview. The boy's words are a statement, not a question. Yes, that's correct. You got a tip before that the interview is going to take place in a pub. Another statement. Yes, I had, Severus admits. What is your point, young cousin? Voldemort asks quietly. Who holds a legit job interview in a pub? Harry asks. A pub that belongs to their brother. How is that possible that this so-called seer had gotten her premonition precisely during the suspicious interview? How come you have been conveniently thrown out of the pub exactly halfway into her revelation? Severus feels a cold cramp in his stomach. It's not like he had ever pondered upon this series of odd coincidences. But at that time, 12 years ago, he seriously had many other things to be preoccupied with. Back then, he used to be a hot-headed 20-year-old kid who struggled to restructure his identity from a timid pushover from an extremely abusive background to a genuine Death Eater, respected and acknowledged by his colleagues and supervisors. Back then, he wished to be somebody and accomplish something, at the same time being held back, haunted by painful memories of his one and only love. When he had managed to overhear the part of the prophecy, he was sure that he had achieved something meaningful. The prophecy was believed to be the most precious piece of information out there, and Severus was excited and anxious to be the one to obtain it. The odd circumstances of the seer's premonition was a secondary issue, and back then, nobody paid much attention to it. Now, however, the fishiness and inconceivableness of the situation strikes Severus like a blow in the stomach. My father always used to say that the future is in constant motion, and only our choices have the power to determine it. He considered the art of divination a tool for manipulative wizards and witches. In his eyes, the seers were nothing more than frauds, and their prophecies were nothing more than scam. I've always agreed with my father on that, and our situation is just confirmation to his beliefs. Silence. Snape can hear his heart pounding. Severus, can't you see? Dumbledore had managed to fool off 3 of us. Harry goes on. Now I finally know why he is so obsessed over me. I finally understand why he was so fixated on bringing me to Hogwarts, and his reaction to my sorting. I mean, he completely lost it, didn't he? He hadn't wanted me in Slytherin for some reason, and when the hat didn't act in accordance to his wishes, he went berserk. What does that mean? Voldemort asked, narrowing his scarlet eyes. Did Dumbledore try to manipulate the sorting hat? Snape sighs. The memory of the disastrous sorting ceremony is still difficult to handle. Yes, he wished the sorting hat to put Harry in Gryffindor without even considering other options. But after the hat had disobeyed him, he wanted to vent his anger on me. When Harry stood up for me, Dumbledore literally lost control of his magic. He used an enhanced version of the explosion spell, nearly killing Harry and permanently crippling his familiar. Severus explains briefly. A dangerous twinkle lights Voldemort's eyes up. Is that true, young cousin? He asks. Yes, it is, Harry confirms. I've obviously gotten the vibes that he is specifically interested in taking control over my life. But now, the picture is complete. I think I can understand everything. Would you listen to my theory? If you have a theory, young cousin, I am more than willing to hear it, Voldemort declares. The boy clears his throat. As I picture it, Dumbledore's war efforts seem to be all in vain, because for so many years he hasn't managed to successfully end the conflict and achieve victory. His followers were slowly getting fed up with him because he turned out to be an incompetent war chief and a weak leader, and nobody wants such a person to rule the wizarding world. Having that in mind, Dumbledore decided to come up with a secret weapon. Severus starts to follow Harry's track of thoughts. The boy speaks with unbelievable maturity, forming logical conclusions, even despite the shocking truth he had just discovered. A golden uber soldier and a sacrificial lamb all in one person. Do you get it? Harry looks at the Dark Lord, and then moves his eyes onto Severus. The prophecy is a scam. I never had and never will have any power to vanquish you, cousin. Dumbledore had created the contents of the prophecy himself, only to make you believe in that crap. This is what made you do something as unreasonable as going after a baby. Yes, I had repelled your killing curse, but I'm afraid this had nothing to do with the prophecy. I'm afraid there was some far more creepy stuff involved. What do you have in your mind, young cousin? Voldemort asked quietly, but, judging by his facial expressions, Severus assumes that his lord already knows what Harry's referring to. If I had an eidetic memory, I could provide you both with a pensieve trail, Harry says calmly. Unfortunately, like most people's, my long-term memory starts storing information only after the age of infancy. Nevertheless, I can submit my mind to a legitimacy search. You, cousin, happen to be one of the greatest legitimacy masters out there, are you not? Voldemort nods slowly. I believe I can restore your memories from when you were a baby, he says cautiously. However, young cousin, I have to ask you first. What do you expect to see? Harry exhales slowly. Our grandfather, Marvolo, used to research dark blood sacrificial rituals. The boy starts, and his words give Severus creeps. An ancient, forgotten, and very powerful branch of magic. that is able to open pathways to many unnatural abilities, such as putting a stopper to death. Severus cowers. He does not like the direction in which Harry's deliberations are going. Is it possible that Dumbledore? Only reaching to my earliest memories can prove me right, but I believe one of such rituals must have been involved. An infant me has been enhanced with a death-stopping sacrifice. Harry goes on. Dumbledore is the kind of person to have knowledge in all branches of magic, and at the same time, he is the kind of person to go this far to achieve his goals. I am willing to prove you right, young cousin, the Dark Lord whispers, apparently as shocked by the boy's words as Severus. He uses Quirrell's hand to draw a wand and points it towards Harry. Severus, I will need your help. He turns towards Snape, rousing him from his thoughts. Even using Quirrell's magical stores, my power is insufficient to perform legilimency on such a deep level. We will have to cast a spell simultaneously. Severus immediately pulls his wand out and joins Voldemort. Yes, my lord, he replies shortly. Follow my lead, and don't diverge, Severus. The Dark Lord instructs. Harry, lower your shields and relax. It's not going to take long. Snape waits for Voldemort to make eye contact with Harry, and they utter legilimens at the same time, entering the boy's mind. According to his lord's wishes, Severus follows his lead obediently. Voldemort makes his way quickly and surely towards Harry's earliest memories, without violating unnecessarily the more recent ones. When the journey through the boy's mind is over, Snape finds himself in a small room. He gasps, recognizing the nursery and the Potter's house in Godric's Hollow, walls covered in light blue wallpaper. A small window, a wooden crib with a sleeping baby inside, exactly how Severus remembers it, exactly like back then on that disastrous night when he found the lifeless, still warm body of Lily Evans among the debris. Snape gasps again when the emerald-eyed, auburn-haired, and still alive Lily enters the nursery. The young man finds it painful and hard to look at his old love. He lowers his gaze as the girl leans over the crib to hug her baby son. That won't make your decision any easier, Lily. Severus flinches at the sound of the loathsome voice. He turns around. Dumbledore is standing in the doorway. Albus! Severus's heart sinks when he hears Lily's vibrant, youthful voice. The girl is apparently surprised by the old wizard's visit. Albus, I know how important this is, but I'm still hesitating. I mean, Harry, he's just a baby. You are talking about basically turning him into a walking weapon, Lily whispers, clearly avoiding Dumbledore's eyes. We are talking about turning him into a hero, Lily. Albus replies gently. We are talking about turning your baby into the savior of the wizarding world, worshipped and cherished worldwide. Most mothers would be proud and happy, having the opportunity to provide their son with such a bright future. Lily closes her eyes and turns towards the crib. Does it have to be Harry, Albus? She asks quietly. Well, the contents of the prophecy have already been revealed to the Dark Lord. If you refuse, I will have to appoint the Longbottom boy, who also meets the requirements. Nevertheless, I won't lie to you. I would much prefer young Harry in the savior's role. According to Frank and Alice, baby Neville was born practically a squib, which makes Harry a much better candidate. Lily sighs. I will do it, Albus, she says finally. Albus smiles. Terrific. Have you familiarized yourself with the introduction to the sacrificial rituals, like I had asked you? Yes, Albus, I've read everything carefully, and I already know how to perform the ritual. Lily answers apprehensively. However, this is another thing in this whole endeavor that repels me. Dark magic, it's just not my cup of tea. Besides, I have graduated from Hogwarts nearly 2 years ago. At school, I would have gotten punished or even expelled for practicing dark arts. Now resorting to the darkest branch of magic out there, additionally under the supervision of the Hogwarts headmaster himself. It just doesn't feel right. Dumbledore snorts. Lily, my dear girl, school is school, and the grown-up world is the grown-up world, he says lightly. In the grown-up world, nobody's going to give you detention or take points for your actions. In the grown-up world, We do what we have to do to achieve our goals. Lily winces. I get it, Albus, but don't you think this is a little bit hypocritical? I mean, you're the headmaster. The words you've just addressed to me, would you address these words to any of the Hogwarts students? Albus smirks. Lily, dearest, of course I wouldn't. I wouldn't even have to. The students are going to find that out themselves sooner or later. They are going to find out as soon as they grow up. Lily turns towards the elderly wizard, clearly confused and disappointed. Albus gets serious. Enough small talks, Lily. Perform the ritual as soon as you can, and when the time comes, remember which factor is necessary to unlock the ultimate protection for your son. Lily's emerald eyes darken, and Severus's heart sinks. My sacrifice, she whispers. Exactly. You will have to sacrifice your life to make Harry the savior. When Voldemort will come for Harry, you are going to purposely stand on the line of fire, exposing yourself to his attack. Thanks to your sacrifice, Harry is going to become untouchable. Voldemort is undoubtedly going to use the killing curse against them, but the boy is going to simply bounce it. The Dark Lord is going to fall, stricken down by his own ricocheted spell, and young Harry is going to become a hero. Severus looks at Lily's tense, pale face. He feels unwanted tears falling down his cheeks. If that's what it takes, Albus, she says quietly. Dumbledore nods, clearly satisfied. I have only 2 terms, Lily adds. Albus raises his eyebrows. Yes. After I'm gone, I want Harry to have a normal, happy childhood, she says, looking affectionately at the sleeping baby. Of course, Dumbledore shrugs. In the 2nd term, James cannot find out. Snape gasps loudly when the Dark Lord retreats from Harry's mind. When Severus opens his eyes, he finds himself kneeling on the floor, with his eyes burning and his face covered in tears. A pair of emerald eyes and a pair of scarlet eyes are looking at him with concern. It's true, Severus whispers in disbelief, looking at the Dark Lord. He did it. Dumbledore sacrificed Lily. I'm really sorry, Severus, Voldemort says quietly. I admit that I should have connected the dots earlier. I've asked the girl to step aside no less than 3 times. She refused, literally putting herself under my wand. I should have guessed that it was all part of the old group's scheme. I assumed that after Dumbledore realized that the ricochet curse had failed to kill you, cousin, he decided to extend his schemes even further. He still wanted to use me as the savior, and that's the reason he's developed an unhealthy obsession over me and my life. There was only one thing he hadn't taken into consideration. Harry turns towards Severus. I'm not his savior anymore. After the blood adoption, the ultimate protection I had gained thanks to the sacrificial ritual had worn off and lost its power. I'm not the same person we have seen in the memory. I'm a Gaunt now. Besides, Dumbledore may not have realized that. There is one more reason I would never decide to fight against my cousin. A speaker is forbidden from fighting against a fellow speaker. This is a sacred rule, established 1,000 years ago by Salazar Slytherin himself to protect our bloodline. Indeed, this is a sacred rule, Voldemort confirms. A speaker standing against another speaker is an abomination and a blasphemy. Dumbledore is out of luck, Harry sneers. I want you to accept my apology, scarlet-eyed cousin, for my unwilling contribution to your ordeal. You have been suffering a miserable fate for many years. I'm glad I will be the one to put an end to your misfortune. The boy pulls the Sorcerer's Stone out of his pocket and hands it over to Voldemort. The Dark Lord's scarlet eyes brighten. If I may, my lord. Severus starts shyly. Voldemort and Harry turns their heads towards him. I want to brew the elixir of life for you, Snape says quietly. The Dark Lord looks at Severus cautiously. Would you really do this, Severus? He asks with acknowledgement. Of course, my lord, the young man answers simply. Voldemort hands the red ruby stone over to Severus, and the young man accepts it. I wish I could bring Lily back to life, Severus, the Dark Lord says sincerely. Sadly, that's not possible, even having the stone. Severus' face tenses as the painful flashback kicks in powerfully. Lily, standing in front of Dumbledore, beside Harry's crib. If that's what it takes, Albus. Snape forces himself to sober up and look up at his master. Bringing Lily back is not possible, my lord, he says quietly. But destroying the one who manipulated her into sacrificing herself is.